Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine. It is time for the long-awaited video on the Doberman Pinscher. This is going to be my professional dog trainer review of the Doberman Pinscher. This is not your typical, oh, I read some Google stats on the Doberman and I'm now going to regurgitate them here to you on YouTube. This is going to be a review of this breed based on my experience with countless individuals. Dogs that I have gotten in here for behavior modification, dogs that I've gotten in here for pet training, puppies, adults, even older dogs. I have a lot of experience with this breed. I have experience with the American lines, with the European lines, with the working lines, and with the show lines. I'm going to give you my experience and my review of this breed based on all these things. I've even imported one of these dogs from Eastern Europe and trained it and sold it as a protection dog. So I have a fair bit of experience with the breed, let's say. I don't need Google and I don't need to repeat somebody else's information. This is going to be all based on what I know of this breed from all the work that I have done with them. With that being said, let's get started. Let's talk about the general character traits that you can expect with a Doberman. Let's try and really educate you. Is this breed the right breed for you, or is it a no-go? Okay guys, so general temperament. They tend to be pretty sweet dogs. They tend to be a little bit goofy and high strung. The average person that gets one of these might think that their dog has ADHD or something because they're always like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? And they have that kind of very high strung, easily stimulated personality. Environmental and social stimuli can affect them very, very easily, especially when they're young, like this dog right here, Mr. Rommel, who's 10 months old. And so it can be challenging for someone who is a novice and who doesn't know what they're doing with the dog to control the dog, walk the dog, train the dog, so on and so forth. But overall, as the working breeds go, in my opinion, these are among the easiest to handle. Whether we're talking about the German Shepherd, the Malinois, the Rottweiler, you know, your typical kind of more working breeds or guardian breeds, if we include the Mollisers on that list, these guys are actually, on a handling scale, quite easy to handle. Common behavioral issues that I see with these dogs: resource guarding and reactive behavior. Now, reactive behavior, you could say, is generally seen in all dogs, but I'm speaking about individuals within this breed that we commonly deal with. In almost all cases, react, and this dog right here, for instance, he's reactive towards other dogs. It's a very common behavior that you see in the dogs, especially with the males. For whatever reason, the males in this breed tend to exhibit more behavioral problems than the females, and they tend to be a little bit more stubborn. Is the solution to cut the nuts off the dog? No, that's not the solution, and it's not good for their health either. The solution is to just make sure that you have the training lined up to be able to turn this type of dog into a model citizen. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Doberman look. These dogs have an iconic look, and that iconic look is artificial. Let's put that out there right now. And by artificial, I mean these ears don't naturally look like that. That tail, which you guys can't see right now, does not naturally look like that. However, for these dogs to have the look that has made them so iconic, you need to have the dog cropped and docked. And in many places, especially now in Europe and even in places like Canada and in some parts of the United States, cropping and docking is becoming extremely frowned upon, if not actually banned. Now, personally for me, I have no problem with cropping and docking. I don't think anything that enhances the look, and let's face it, the look for these dogs is a big part of the reputation that they have. I don't view that as a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing for the dog because it's only going to increase the dog's value. It's going to increase the dog's ability to do his job. A lot of people get these dogs as guard dogs, as protection dogs, and the dog looking intimidating is basically 9/10 of the job. So I actually have no problem with it. And, you know, I know a lot of people are going to be all up in their feelings about this, but the reality is any kind of physical stress on the dog is very minimal as a puppy. The cropping and docking process is not anything that's going to have any long-term effect on the dog, other than to, of course, give them the iconic Doberman look. However, this look is getting harder and harder to find because, like I said, it's becoming more and more banned. And I think once cropping and docking becomes uniformly banned, this dog will fade completely into obscurity. Like, the reality is Dobermans that have their ears and tails look like giant coonhounds. They're very unappealing physically. In order for them to have this iconic look, it needs to be completely cropped and docked. I'm putting that out there. You can feel about that however way you want to feel about it. It's really no skin off my nose. Dragged on walks? Is walking your dog dangerous and uncomfortable? We fix pulling in as little as 10 minutes. Teach your dog to walk on a loose leash in our no-pull walking course at shieldcanineonline.com. Now, moving forward, let's talk about the working traits of these dogs. Let's talk about what it actually is to train one of these dogs. Now, as a trainer, I get a lot of guff because I've said things about Dobermans in passing on various live streams and other stuff like that people have taken offense to. You know, a lot of people are really in their feels about their dogs. Like, they have a lot of ego built into their dogs. So I guess when I say things that are less than 100% positive about a dog, they take it personally. But the Doberman as a breed, like I said, is a dog that I have a lot of experience with. As a trainer, I love getting them in. So this may come as a surprise to you. As a trainer, I love getting them in. When someone says, hey, like, I've got a Doberman, he's out of control. I got a Doberman, he's reactive. I'm like, yeah, bring that dog in. These are fun dogs to train. They're easy dogs to train. I really like training them. I know you might be a little confused because earlier I mentioned that they kind of have this goofy ADHD personality, but that's just because a lot of people don't know how to train them, and when you lead them to their own devices, they're gonna do silly things like, you know, what a ADHD dog is going to do. But it just means that they like to be stimulated. So if you're a trainer that knows what you're doing, you can easily stimulate these dogs and get them working. And when they work and you've trained them properly, they tend to be pretty twitchy, fast dogs in obedience, and you can make some pretty flashy obedience with the vast majority of them. So they're really nice dogs to train. Their sensitivity also means that once you've trained them to do the right thing the right way, they tend to really stick with that. They're not dogs that are stubborn. They're not dogs that are difficult to hold accountable for bad behavior, to correct bad behavior in. They tend to actually be quite trainable and fun to train. So as a professional trainer, I love taking these dogs in and I love training them, and we have a lot of clients that are very happy with what we've done with their Doberman. So there's that. Now, let's talk about drive, motivation, so on and so forth. These dogs tend to have fairly good drive. They like to play, they like to eat, and they like to work with the handler, especially if the handler is exciting and engaging. Because again, remember that ADHD personality, there's always two sides to every coin. They tend to be actually quite easy to train and quite fun to train. In terms of pressure, right? And when we speak about pressure, we speak about what the average person on the street would call a correction. Keeping in mind that they're sensitive, it is easy to overstimulate them or suppress them with pressure if you don't know what you're doing. Now, you guys already know, if you follow my content, that I don't believe any training system is complete without the application of pressure in the training. Otherwise, you're going to have a dog that does things optionally. And with dogs like this, I don't think that that's something that should be acceptable or allowed. But that being said, when you use pressure or when your trainer is using pressure in the training, they need to know what they're doing, because it's easy to suppress these dogs or it's easy to overstimulate the dogs and create a counterproductive response. So that's something to be aware of when you're training these dogs. Now, that's just general training information. Let's talk more specifically about competition training, okay? When we speak about using these dogs in, like, let's say a competition bite sport, this is where you're going to start to run into the limitations of what these dogs are, okay? A lot of Dobermans have drive, but they don't have enough drive, okay? The reality is a lot of them really struggle with three major things. And these are really important: drive, nerve, and health. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the health later, but those three things in combination, even if you have two of those problems, generally make it quite difficult for the dog to excel in dog sport. Now, I know you might be confused at this point and be like, what are you talking about? Listen, if dog sport is your goal and you wanna perform at a high level, or you just wanna, let's say, even an easier time of it, get yourself a nice German Shepherd or Belgian Malinois. This is an off-breed for a reason. They're generally just not super gifted when it comes to dog sport. So they have drive, but just generally not enough, especially when we speak about the nervous system of the dog. The reality is, because they have such a beautiful look, they have such an iconic look, a lot of breeders make tons of money selling these dogs off the look exclusively, and they are able to completely ignore the working traits, the character of the dog that also should be maintained with the breeding. Not breeding fearful individuals, not breeding individuals that lack the drive and the nervous system necessary to perform at a reasonable level. And unfortunately, too many breeders neglect that in their breeding, and that's why the breed is plagued with so many issues when it comes to the nerves of the dog and the drive of the dog. Because there are two things that get you through stress with a dog, especially when we're talking about the stress present in a trial, the stress present when we're dealing with a difficult scenario in obedience, tracking, or protection. It is the heart of the dog, the courage of the dog, the willingness of the dog to persevere through stress, and then also it's the drive of the dog. And if any of those things are lacking, you're going to have a problem. So if the dog, let's say, maybe is a little bit more prone to being flighty and nervous, he better have a drive that is high enough to overcompensate for that lack. Or let's say his drive is maybe a little bit more mediocre, well, then he better have a heart that is able to compensate for maybe what the drive is lacking. And unfortunately, what we find with these dogs when we try to push them to that level is in many cases, there is a critical lack. Not all cases, because you will see individuals within these breeds excelling in sports like IGP and PSA and so on and so forth, but it's not the norm. The norm is, unfortunately, a lot of them are not. I'm gonna speak about it from a protection training standpoint, because I know a lot of you guys aren't involved in bite sport and don't particularly care, but I just wanted to address that because I know a lot of people can be like, oh, what about the Doberman? Why don't you train a Doberman? I don't train a Doberman because I wanna win, right? I wanna win, I'm serious about winning, I'm serious about performing on the highest level. I love how they look fantastic, but I wanna win, and the character and the traits that I need in order to win are not going to be present in 99.99999% of Dobermans. I'm sure there's a unicorn out there that might have them, but in general, it's just not. Reactive dog, barking, lunging, chasing, pulling. Enjoy peaceful, pleasant walks again in as little as 1 day of training. Fast, effective training that actually works. Think Shield Canine. Now let's just talk about them as protection dogs, because a lot of people just, you have a nice house, you want a Doberman to guard your family, you want a Doberman to kind of guard your estate, so on and so forth. And, you saw these dogs in the movie Resident Evil or something, and, they just have such a cool look, the devil dog, so to speak, and you decide, hey, I want to get one of these as a protection dog. I'm going to tell you the same thing. In general, when it comes to look, okay, they have a fantastic deterrent effect just from their look alone. The vast majority of individuals within the breed are not going to be able to be a protection dog to the level that I would consider to be appropriate, a dog that will actually engage a committed threat. Can they bark at the gate and look scary? Is that enough for most people? Certainly. But when we start getting into things like talking about doing like bite work, scenarios, muzzle work, all of these types of things that maybe a protection dog needs to be able to do, that's where you're going to see some issues with the courage and with the drive level of the dogs. This dog, Rommel, actually is here from a good client of mine, and I think we're going to be able to turn him into quite a nice protection dog. But as a trainer, you need to be aware that if you think you're going to train this dog like you would train your typical working line German Shepherd to do protection work, generally speaking, that's just not the way it's going to go. These dogs, you need to be able to open the reactive aggression in these dogs and come through that in the training. If you're not able to do that and your game is just kind of like, I'm going to do a lot of prey work, it's not going to work, and the dog is never going to be all that you want it to be in protection, and the dog will definitely not be able to stand up to any kind of serious pressure or stress from the decoy. Just something to consider and something to be aware of. If you want a dog to do tons of bite work and to really be able to engage a committed threat, the Doberman is not the easiest bet. Again, working line German Shepherd, Belgian Malinois, even maybe a bull breed would probably suit you a little bit better. That being said, if you really insist on the look, do your research. There are very few breeders out there that are truly preserving the working quality within these dogs. If you do your research, you will find those breeders. He does happen to come from a breeder that apparently has pretty good working lines. And of course, we're going to find out when we put him in our program and start running the training on him. If you want to see kind of my initial impressions of this dog in particular, and if you want to see other Dobermans in our videos working, there's actually tons of them all through my YouTube channel and on the Instagram. So I welcome you to go back and look. And the video of this guy and our initial kind of work that we were doing should be posted by the time you guys watch this. So you're welcome to go and take a look and see. And also, we are going to be filming his progress moving forward, because he's going to be a long-term project for us. All the obedience training, all the protection training. So you're going to be able to see what we make of this little guy by the end of it. All right, guys, let's talk about another elephant in the room when it comes to the Doberman, the health. Now, us as professional dog trainers, we always kind of joke with one another when someone brings the Doberman out. We're like, well, if he's any good, he's probably going to be dead by the age of 3. And that's the reality. A lot of these dogs are plagued with so many health issues, especially issues that are quite deadly, issues that kill them. We're not talking about, oh, he's got itchy skin. We're talking about, oh, there's something wrong with his heart and he's just going to drop dead by the age of 4 years old, right? Very common issue. So they have a lot of health issues, especially related to their heart. Von Willebrand's disease, where the dog struggles to clot, like wounds don't clot properly. These are common issues. Joints, I find that generally they actually have pretty decent joints, but when it comes to those issues, those are the critical issues that will actually kill your dog. And unfortunately, there's far too many of them that are getting bred that have have this congenital issue. So my advice to you is do not buy puppies off of a dog where at least one of the parents isn't in excess of 6 years of age. I find generally if they get past 6, you're gonna have a pretty decent lifespan on the dog, but a lot of them, really strong specimens of dogs, you know, in their prime, way too many of them drop dead between the ages of 3 and 4 years old. Just be aware of that and do not buy, my advice would be do not buy puppies from dogs that are like the father is 2 and the mother is, you know, 2.5. You're not going to have any kind of guarantees there when it comes to the longevity of the dog. And why these health issues exist? Unfortunately, just inbreeding on the wrong individuals. People think inbreeding is the problem. All breeds that exist today are actually the product of selective, tight inbreeding. But when you inbreed on the wrong individuals, you are going to magnify these specific health traits. And again, not selecting dogs for hardiness and work ethic, and instead selecting them for this, you know, iconic look that the Doberman has. And unfortunately, not only has it led to issues in the workability of the dog, but it has led to issues in the overall health of the dogs. Okay, guys, to summarize everything, they can be high-strung, goofy dogs that some people think have ADHD. They're pretty fun to train. I actually really enjoy training them. They struggle with health. They can struggle with drive, if that's the thing that you care about. And they can also have some courage issues, okay? Again, all these comments that I make about this breed are broad generalities based on many, many individuals that I see. If you want one as a pet, my advice to you is just make sure that you're getting dogs that are health tested and dogs that come from, you know, parents and grandparents that lived in excess of 3+ years, just to avoid any kind of heartbreak. If you're serious about a working dog, again, get a dog that comes from proven dogs that are bred for their working quality, dogs that have been selected for their working quality. If you don't do that, unfortunately, is low. If you want the iconic look, you are going to have to do the cropping and the docking. Again, make sure that that's legal in the place that you're in. But other than that, like I said, overall, as me personally, if you got a Doberman, send it here for training. We love training them and we do a fantastic job with them. If you're serious about a working dog, keep all the things that I said in your mind and make your decision appropriately. Sometimes it's worth the risk for people just to get what they want. And I can respect that. Whether we're talking about, you know, a car, a dog, whatever it is, you know, hey, that car's gonna break down a lot, but it's really the car that I want and I really enjoy that car and it's going to make my life more exciting and better. By all means, do the same thing for the dog. But again, do your research. These are not dogs to buy from the backyard. These are dogs that my advice is get them from breeders that are doing the right thing, especially with these dogs, because there really is no room for error with these dogs. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Again, follow Rommel's progress on the channel. We're going to have more updates of him in his protection training and his obedience training. I hope you enjoyed my in-depth review of the Doberman from a professional trainer's perspective. There's way too many people on the internet just spouting stuff that they read off of ChatGPT. This is based on real-world experience with multiple versions of this breed of dog.